Audit LA,
Hey
and
everyone.
appreciate having her on here. Of all the days, usually Sundays are for resting and not doing any work, so I feel bad for making her do more work on a Sunday.
It's good. It's a good time, so it worked out well.
Yeah, yeah, no, appreciate you
No rest
being
for
here.
the weary, right? We got to keep plugging on.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. It's like never a dull moment, which is great on one hand. There's always a ton of content. And then on the other side, you can get burnt out really easily. Like I was doing a whole bunch of other org research and I was like, wow, it's already in the evening. Like, where did
Yeah.
the time fly, man? And I got so used to accustomed to LA time. So
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. We still got. I don't know if you still. It's still like a little bit. It's still light out. So, I know. Me too. It's like editing and stuff. It is. It goes by fast. I can't believe it's already at the end of the day. But hi guys. All right. I see the chat, which is good. I've never done this way before, so it's great.
yeah, I actually learned about it a while back through Kelly. At first, I didn't even realize it was a thing until I saw her invite me over. I've done it the usual way of people invite you to StreamYard and whatnot. It's a pain because you got
Yeah.
to figure out, you got to have the computer, and it's too much hassle. If you can do it on the app, you know, that's the best way to do it. People are already used to going live on the app anyway.
Yep. That's true. Hey guys.
Hey, there they are. They're coming on in. And for those that are just joining, I pinned the link to Audit's channel below. If you haven't checked out all of her links, go like, go subscribe, and go check out all of her donation links. So major shout out to Audit, the literal workforce, uh, in addition to many that has been part of all the wonderful receipts that we've all gotten. Probably the best soon-to-be comedy skit that I personally look forward to, being Jen and her men and Janet from Another Planet. I can't wait to see those two skits come out. Well, when are they dropping
Gonna be
on it?
fun.
Come on, give us a little
I
sneak peek.
know. Well, I have one more. Yeah, I have one coming. Another episode coming. I think maybe today or tomorrow. Probably tomorrow. A little bit. I don't know if I should give a preview, but this one will include Mox and Doxon. No, Dox and Moxon, because he likes to dox everyone, and he's doing
And
a lot of CPRAs right now. I'm going through his CPRAs so far. I haven't found them responding to any of them.
did you see the one with Jessica and Moxon?
That's the one. Yeah, yeah, that's the
That
one
was
that
that was
yeah.
so funny, man. Oh my gosh, this
It's
guy is.
hilarious, but I have more of that more coming. Like you're gonna see a little bit more of it. So that's the next episode, guys.
Oh
So,
man. I swear, literally, guys, this is the best comedy show on all of planet Earth. On this side of the Galactic Federation, this is it. It's way better than any of these Xenu stories or there's that one federation, I forget the name, but it was literally founded because they LRH got annoyed that he had to pay taxes. Um, what is it? It begins with an R, I think.
hmm, I don't know. Romulan? No.
No, 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 no. It was a different one. But basically, it's literally an entire part of the Galactic Federation designed specifically to avoid taxes and be
Oh,
a tax
jeez.
haven. So
Well, I'm
there you go.
telling you, that's what they like to do.
Yep, yep. So welcome everybody. You got some more people coming in. All right. So basically, one of the things I wanted to talk with you today about is this concept of strategy and what it means to strategize and effectively, rally resources. And I know part of some of the stuff that we've talked about together has been how to safe point and how to sort of like deprogram an unsafe point. And for better or for worse, if anything, I think a lot of people are getting exposure into what it looks like to actually interface with officials and other government agencies and sort of see firsthand uh, how some of the ways that Scientology is infiltrated in some of the some of the government agencies, and I guess doing that but in reverse, right? And just really wanted to hear, what your thoughts are on the importance of showing up to government meetings, even if you might not agree, the importance of just getting your voice out there and making sure that you're heard. Just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's extremely important. We always feel a lot of times people feel hopeless and helpless that they don't have a voice, they can't do anything because, we're always hearing on the news about like the big, everything's like national, international, statewide. It seems so overwhelming. So we just feel like little peons in a way. But when you go to the grassroots level of your own community, you start realizing you do have a voice and you can have influence. And I saw it just randomly as I was getting interested in just regular neighborhood issues, it just being, where I live and things, I was able to get certain things accomplished. That's like, it's really, it gives you encouragement. And so I think it's really important on a grassroots level, wherever you're at. If you're in LA, you're where, small towns, wherever, just start with your local and speak up, and these are the people, and then just remind them, we I don't work for you, you work for me, and if you don't think that like we can vote you out, you're wrong. Like, look at Kevin De Leon. He swore that the people would not forget, I mean that they would forget, and they didn't forget. And and so you can work to hold them accountable, and I think it's really important that you find your voice, even if it's scary or you feel like you're shaky, you don't know what to say. It's okay. I mean, and it seems like you have no time. Actually, a minute to 2 minutes can seem like an eternity when you're actually up there. And then, but and you can't really mess it up. I mean, it's just your time, it's your voice, and use it. And whether it's for dealing with Scientology or dealing with the street lights in your community, whatever it is, just start small. Just start with what's important in your life, and just go for it.
I think some of the best parts in this have been the how this one movement, this one cause is interwoven in so many other facets, and some of the characters you meet along the way, I think really add to it, right? In LA, just generally, it's weird because of Hollywood, but at the same time, you see issues like you mentioned, Puppet Guy who talks about the broken public infrastructure. And you meet these characters that know so much about the city, and they might originally not know jack about any of the Scientology stuff. But once you put it in words for some of the stuff that they've been fighting for years, then you sort of get them on your side too. And unlocking those characters, I think, is just as important as actually showing up. If anything, at least it makes it entertaining, right? Because now you
Yeah.
have a whole cast of folks that are on your side that you never would have expected before. I don't know about you, but I literally never thought we would have had a puppet guy on our side.
That's true. I mean, Go Puppet's been around for a long time. He's been for years doing this stuff, and but yeah, he's become, like an ally. He gives really very good advice on what to do next. And even if you heard, like, I would call him F bomb guy. I don't like the language. I hate it. But he'll even get up there and say, "Hey, move those planners. What are you guys doing?" Like, they were actually starting to, chime in. And even we call him Shirt Guy. He's even he went undercover to 2 different Scientologists because he's skeptical about what we're saying, and he went, he's like, "Yeah, they were kinda rude and nasty," and he wants to go back to one of their services, and he's gonna keep digging. So, it's true, it's getting it out there, it's good stuff. But even
Yeah, and
lower than that, the neighborhood councils, I mean, that's how I met Bike Guy at a local neighborhood councils. There was a whole other cast of crazy characters that became, like, really dear friends and everything. This is like, it seems like sometimes, I don't know if it probably is just because it's Hollywood. I never did this back, before I lived here, but you never know. It's probably the same, wherever you are too. You're gonna meet interesting people, the people that seem to care about the community and what's going on. Some of them may be eccentric, but whatever, but they're knowledgeable, they're fascinating, and I think at the end of the day, they have good hearts that they want the best for the community. They want accountability. We're all kind of seeking the same thing, just differently, at the end of the day.
yeah, and a lot of what you'll get out of this too, you find out quickly some of these meetings that would otherwise never be publicized were it not for these streamers showing up. We've seen that a bunch of times. And if that's happening in large areas like LA, then can you imagine in other cities like New York City, like Boston? It's fascinating how some of these large capital cities have such little transparency. And then you bring that down to smaller cities. So you would
Yes.
be, yeah, a major voice just by simply showing up and streaming it. Um, and that's
And
why I
they
found,
hate it.
yeah.
Although
Well,
LA's gotten used to it because LA has lost so many, they've lost some major lawsuits. I know North Hollywood division lost like a $2 million lawsuit for kicking out an auditor out of their station. So they're pretty well trained. If, as you can see, you get very little resistance anymore because a lot they had a huge auditing community and they, so. But the little ones, you might get some resistance, but it's okay. Just stand on your rights, know the law. I mean, you don't have to push it to like where they're, if they're like for me, if I'm under threat of arrest, I'm going to shut it down, even if they violate my rights. And I'll sue, you can sue them later. You could do a cure, correct, whatever it is you have to do. So I'm not saying, go crazy out there, but it's okay to, to exercise your rights. You have the right to film in public.
and that's how a lot of the progress has been made. One of the largest advocacy groups, the people that make Watch the Watchers,
Mhm.
they went through the similar process where through basically infinite CPRA requests to get rosters and serial numbers and payroll information for public servants, which is exactly what the police are. They basically got met with refusals from the city, took them to court, sued the crap out of the city, won, and that's why we have tools like Watch the Watchers. And
Yes.
so, even though, for a cause like this, you might begin to talk about one thing, but you very quickly dive into all these other areas like a simple roster list. Like I was thinking about this for Salt Lake City, found a similar thing to Watch the Watchers, but what they had encountered was issues with um, what was it, the payroll information for these officers, and they did not have a complete roster list. So these guys are trying to do what the Watchers are doing, but they had no info on payroll. And so that's one of the biggest issues, and frankly, grounds for great lawsuits for an area like
Yes.
Salt Lake City, which has like 3.1 million people. Publicize the crap out of that. Make another example of how to stand on your rights. And I guarantee you that's what will happen in all these other cities as people want to know more information about, why are cops showing up, harassing people. They're going to want to know why the cops are responding in certain ways, more information on each of the officers. And I see it already. I
Yes,
see
and
it.
we need that information. Even in California here, the voters voted to have even more transparency for LAPD. We wanted to know they were going to expose, make it open to have their disciplinary records, everything. But then the police union got it shut down, even though the voters voted for it. So we're dealing with extremely powerful. Police unions, and so there's a lot of opposition or resistance when it's coming to the police departments, but it just takes people to keep pushing. And I was talking to streets the other day, like they're doing another big following all the rampart scandals, and all, they're doing a whole database with all these CPRAs. I think he said they have like 100,000 different things they're going to be inputting, and that's what it's going to take. It takes a lot of, and this is where other people can get involved.
Yeah.
Not everyone can maybe go out and stream or can't do, but they are. So, well, what can we do? Well, here's something you can start tracking this stuff. And if you have anyone good at computers, like I know you're really good at computers, or other people are more techie like that, they can start doing these databases in the smaller areas, and following who these officers are, because it's really important to know who the officers are, especially in a high level Scientology town. You have to start figuring out who is safe pointed, who really works with them the most, and you start seeing patterns, right? I always look for patterns. We see the same officers dispatched all the time, and the same situations. All that is it's not a whole lot. It's you start seeing patterns, and then as we see PRA, I that's why I with my Jen and her men stories, because sorry for the plane, um, you know when you write fictional stories, it's not, you can't they can't try to come after you for slander because it's fictional. I say it's fictional. It's just a story. But and I like, you have to have some fun. You can't, everything's so serious. Sometimes you have to have, you have to have humor and laugh in life too. But it gets the, but you're putting out the CPRAs, which are accurate. And you start seeing, the same cops, even with their, like, who they link up to, like who Jen reaches out to every time they're not getting their way. Oh, street, they're not closing the sidewalk for us. They call the same officers that, keep that violate the rights and everything. So patterns is everything. You have to see it, and you can't see it if you don't start looking for it. So everyone should be CPRing their own area, on Scientology, and start. Everyone. This is like a blue. What we're doing here is like a blueprint of what everyone else, and it's building as it's going. It's not like it came out with this big plan or strategy. It's just evolving as it goes. But then that will become a blueprint to take wherever, everywhere, wherever anyone is. That's just
Yeah.
my views.
Yeah, everything from dispatch records for the audio that was placed during a call that resulted in an officer responding, to body cam footage, to emails, to phone calls, to between officers, and you start seeing as well some of the inefficiencies and some of the ways that even other, be it a neighborhood council or even a smaller city agency is operating, whether it be not publishing agendas ahead of time, whether it be keeping the notices of meetings completely hidden. And those are the types of things that are also grounds for litigation that can further solidify future litigation to bring against. And you wouldn't really find any of this other stuff if didn't have an initial cause to start from. The most fascinating, the meme of it all is that it's not really just Scientology anymore. It's how deep is the incompetency as well as the collusion between these agencies,
Yes.
and that's what really a lot of these agencies don't like, right? You might have started with Scientology, but now you're getting into all these other aspects, like money not being dispersed equally, like cops getting way too much of the budget while welfare programs are severely underfunded, and even more, they get cuts while this particular department gets increases, and that now catches the attention of so many other people, and that's really where it's at, right? That's the
Yes.
importance of all of this,
Yeah, you start
because
seeing how things really work and how they, don't work, because you start looking at the rules, like what's the rules for street closures, and you realize, well, this isn't being, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So there's no accountability, there's no oversight. You start seeing where things are really lacking. But in the end of what you're talking about before with building a legal case, like I think in the end, everything's gonna. Well, right now, we're just building
yep,
evidence, and eventually it's going to be fought and won in the courts for the most, I think, and
absolutely,
it's going to take a lot of lawsuits, and that's where, when it costs money, when they lose, like look at Francois Coster, sorry for the plane again, she is paying a very heavy price for violating the rights of the First Amendment of people, and 120,000 she's got to pay in 90 days. What's she going to do? I don't know, but she made choices and she listened to bad advice from police officers. That's, so you see how the collusion works, but how it backfired. So we're all seeing how this progresses, and eventually all of it's going to end up in the courts. Because look, people are also with the Jane Doe's filing lawsuits. More people are going to come forward, and they're going to be more, "Oh, well, she won her lawsuit, I'm going to do mine," type of thing. And that's where it's going to come down to. So we're building that. We're building a whole, whether it's filming, whether it's the CPRAs, whatever, we're going to meet, whatever, finding all this stuff out. Because then you could also go to like civilian grand juries like that right now.
yep,
We did that, and and you can keep doing that. And then you have a, or the ethics commissions, like whatever. I don't know what you have in your everyone's towns, but here we have these things, and you can put cases in there, or with the bargs, all these things, so you can have other entities looking into it if they take it on, OIG, all these. So it's going to build up momentum. You just have to find out your little niche. Everyone has their niche, everyone has their style, And like one I don't put one style over the other because what works for one in this situation, because you have like the protesting that's like street level, stuff like that, or but you have someone that's doing, like everyone needs to figure out their own niche and then their own strategy, and but at the end of the day, just be true to who you are and you'll figure it out.
Yeah, two really fun conversations came up for me. So one a couple of times in LA, I actually got to talk with college students who were specifically there from classes where their professors mentioned this particular movement, and they said go attend and take notes on what's happening. Those students would have otherwise never had any clue on the reality of, in that case, it was LA politics. So they got a whole introduction on the Weezer corruption. They had a whole introduction on the Price is Right, as I call him, other council member
Yeah,
who's literally on trial,
earn price.
yeah, who is LA is basically paying to go through a court case and still hold his position. He's not suspended or anything.
Mm-mm.
To all this other stuff that they just would have never gotten exposed to before. And the other one is I've gotten people to reach out on doing take what Watch the Watchers does, take what Will does, take also what the Salt Lake City police database is doing of logging incidents, but make it nationwide. Have a whole public nationwide database of rosters of cops, of payroll of all those cops, as well as incidents and being able to upload footage of those incidents, basically like a crowdsource Brady list, but owned by the people. And that's
It
the kind of
needs to.
thing that never would have really hit the light of day, but people are looking into it now, and several people reach out to me, and I'm sure other people as well, in doing some of these types of initiatives. And that's the beauty of this all, right? To get more information into the hands of people that otherwise would have never thought, well, what the heck does a Scientology movement have to do with the LAPD, sheriffs, corruption in council committees? Nobody would have guessed any of that, but this is really
Right.
what uh, it's showing and highlighting.
Yeah, and a lot of people never even knew it was possible. You don't think about it unless, but it is. It's showing it, and now they can do it for other things as well. But I see Fat Grammy saying to talk about. She's asking about the civil grand jury process. Could I?
Yeah, go for
Would
it.
you like me to explain a little bit about that? Yeah,
Do
we
it.
did that, and it's basically what they do. It's not criminal; it's civil, and they oversee the different processes within city government. So at that time, because it starts, I believe, in August for LA, and at that time, our biggest nightmare was these permits, and so we put in the civil grand jury. They can't tell you whether or not they take the case. You find out at the end of the year, all the corrections and everything and all the forms, whatever they did, you find out at the end. So we have to wait to see if they took the case, but I believe they do because there's things happening. And what they do, they'll come in as they're researching, they'll get all the information and they will see whether or not the system's correct or if they're doing what they have to do. And if they're not, they can take it all the way up to the AG for a criminal prosecution if there's something really corrupt that they find. But if it's like not so corrupt, but it's just like these things aren't working correctly, they will fix it. And the reason I believe that they did take the case is because now, as you notice, they are enforcing the permits and making changes to the rules. So now Scientology can no longer get 7-day permits. They can only get Friday through Monday, and so they had to tear everything down between Tuesday and Thursday. So if they want to keep getting permits, they didn't limit how many they can get, but they're all the effort they're going to have to do to get these. And then they also now are enforcing. They had to put signs up saying that the sidewalks can, or they can pass through. They have to notify the entire neighborhood, like several block radius. There's all these steps now that they have to take. So that's what makes me think, because before, remember, we couldn't even get them to answer emails. They wouldn't do anything. But then with the civil grand jury, I believe that they are working things out, and it's getting a little bit better now for those darn planters.
One of the things that I personally learned a lot, it's similar in other cities, but it works a little differently in LA just because of the size. But can you explain to people what the importance and how the city council meetings take reports, specifically the different reports. One a lot of people might have seen called the community impact statement, and how that comes about and why it's so important in LA. Can you explain to people
Sure.
exactly what that is?
And I love that you've been pushing that because it's so true. I mean, I've been saying it privately and all for a long time. Basically, okay, the city council is there's 15 different representatives for they cut up the pie for 15 different council districts, in the city of LA. And then back when the valley, San Fernando Valley wanted to secede from the city, they didn't want that, so they kind of made like an agreement. And what they did, they created a neighborhood council system, and there's 99 neighborhood councils, and they all fall within the different 15 council districts. So say council district 10 might have 10 neighborhood councils underneath them. And what the neighborhood council's job is, they're not paid, they're just volunteers. That's like the East Central Hollywood, neighborhood council, this Central Hollywood neighborhood council. These are just people, like you and me, who want to serve their community. They're not paid, they're not really trained. They just go and they kind of figure it out. They have a little bit of money to spend on their community. But one of their powers that they do have, and they don't take advantage of it enough because it's not encouraged. And thankfully, Henri has been encouraging the city council and everyone else to solicit their CISs. It's community impact statements. And so whenever they have a council district, anything that's going to come before the city council, it has a council district number, and and it'll tell you what it is, and they put it out in enough time. It's got to go through committees, it works its way up, so there's a process, and it takes time. So the neighborhood councils can then bring, oh, we're interested in this this issue. So they will take it to their neighborhood council, they will discuss it, vote on whether or not they want to support or not support it. And once they say, okay, yeah, we're going to support it, they then put into the system. There's a system already set up for them to submit their CISs for whether it's for or against. And what that does, it lets their the council person know how that neighborhood council's people, how they view a certain item. And then, these are people that want to get reelected and stuff. So it carries a certain weight. And that's the power of the neighborhood councils, but they do not utilize it at all, hardly at all, enough. I mean, I'm not they do it. I mean, you might get, neighborhood council may do one or two a month, or every few months, whatever, but it's not enough. There's so much they could be speaking on. But the only problem is now, it's not such a bad thing with the city council because they are set up for it. But when it comes to like public works, this
Mhm.
which is where we've been focused on, public works puts their agenda out with all they don't give you enough advance notice of what they're discussing for the neighborhood, because the neighborhood council then has to go to their neighborhood council. They have once a month meetings. They have to present it, vote it, yes or no, and then write it and submit it. That's a process. It takes time, a lot more than the 3 days notice that they get. You know what I mean, before these meetings. So there's a little bit of a flaw there that really needs to be worked out, because they have the same right to address redress what public works. And we saw that last week where Henry and I, we went to a neighborhood, the Valley Alliance of Neighborhood Councils, and one of the neighborhood council presidents was upset that Public Works wants to change their public speaking minutes and times, and she was upset about it. And but there wasn't enough time for her, 'cause she didn't know about it in time, because they didn't advertise it in enough time for her to be able to go to her council to do a CIS. So she did come to the meeting, but she goes, and she was mad. She let them know. She goes, I have to speak as myself because we didn't have enough notice for me to bring this before my council. And so that's one of the fallacies. So I absolutely love that you are pushing this issue. It needs to be pushed. It should have been, they need to know their powers, because I'm very big on the neighborhood council level. And I've been pushing that. Like, I've been working really hard with, like really trying to promote, like like Central Hollywood. They've gotten really great at it, and they're really growing, but they need to know their voice and their power. Imagine if 99 of them put out 3, 4 a month. That's a lot of they're giving a lot of input. It's gonna have sway, because these people, they're gonna be nervous when election time comes, if they keep going against the will of their people. and that's how they know. It's not just a phone call. People think, oh, the people call in, we like it, we don't like it, that's great. But when the neighborhood councils put in their voice, it's powerful. So I thank you for doing that.
It to give a visual, right? We've seen people show up for some have been labor union representatives and organizers, and they show up literally by the hundreds, and
Mhm.
they sign up to speak. They submit their speaker cards, and it's literally hundreds of these folks. They're basically filibustering, right? And that's the power of one of the powers of neighborhood councils. Can you imagine doing that exact thing, but for topics that they have a vested interest in? And that's ultimately what I see is one of the real powers. And also the fact that, like you mentioned, neighborhood council board members are not really politicians. They're
Mhm.
not these six-figure plus celebrity politicians like somebody like a Hugo is, and they're not vying for. They're basically not. They're just regular people. They're
They're you
not.
and me. They're the local business owner that's tired of this issue. They're the mom, worried about this and that. It's just that regular people coming together. They're not in it for politics. They just really want to make their community better. And so that's why they're such a great source to tap, because these are people who are giving their time and energy to this to their what they're doing, but they're not really encouraged. They do not have the support system that they need with their overheads, which is uh done. They call it Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, and over them is bonk. And there's just not a lot of support. In fact, they've had a lot of their rights and stuff stripped. They've had their budget stripped. They used to get 50,000 a year, now they get like 35 or 32. It's just so there's been a work against them, which is a shame. Especially since right now, like, I know they wanna make it where it's more than 15 districts, because I believe the average is right now each district, person council person has, like, maybe 250,000 people in their district, which is a lot to govern for that area, so they wanna make more of them, but in the meantime, they could really be relying on their neighborhood councils to see what the people want. But there's a level of arrogance. We see it at the meetings all the time. They just have a level of arrogance. They don't even want to hear what we have to say. You can't even get them to pay attention. You have to kind of bust their chops
Yeah.
embarrass, like kind of shame them, public shame them into even wanting to listen, because it's just so it's a vicious cycle here. I would love to hear stories. Like, I would love for everyone to go to their local ones and then film it, whatever, and let us see it. I'd love to see how. Like, I love that Crazy Love is doing it in
Yep.
Salt Lake City. It's great, and I know we've been calling it. Fat Graham and all have been calling it in Chicago, but I would love to see boots on the ground and actually show all this stuff and really learn how it is all. I think it'd be fascinating. I'd love it.
Well, that's one of my personal goals at the end of all this to make like a mega compilation of like of best parts of, because really people are there for the public comment part. They don't really care to hear what the board members have to say. They just want to see what the people have to say. And one of the best parts is in some ways seeing the change for some of the board members, particularly in the neighborhood councils, where the wheels start to spin and they start getting
Mhm.
it, start understanding, and you get them to you win them over. But one of the things I wanted to ask you is just to explain it for some people. When it comes to things like the LA neighborhood councils, how does one even begin the process, say, if they're looking to be a board member? How does somebody eventually land in that position as a board member on a neighborhood council?
It's very easy. You go to the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, because they're all elected, or you can be appointed. Like, if you say I'll just take one. Like, let's go with Central Hollywood, because they're my favorite right now. And a shout out to Sunshine. He's and Daniel. Like,
Sunshine
they've
is
just
good.
done so much to just. They make me so proud. So,
Sunshine is good.
but say if there's an empty seat on their council right now, can just go to the president and say, I want to be on your, as long as you're a stakeholder, you have to be a stakeholder. It means you have to live there, work there, or be part of some organization within their district boundaries. And so say if I work, you work in their district boundary, you can say, I want to be on this, I want that seat. And she cannot, the president will nominate, I mean, every neighborhood council has their own bylaws and standing rules. So, I mean, it can vary a little bit here and there, but this is in general. You go to the president, I want to be nominated, and they, and she says, okay, brings it before the council, and the council says they vote you in. That's how you get appointed. But if you want to do it through the election process, you just sign up for the next election, and I think the elections start for Central Hollywood in January, if I'm not mistaken, because I think because they vary. They split them in different times, so it's not all at once. And and then you can run, and if you win your seat, you win it. And those are two great ways. It doesn't take a lot. You just have to be a stakeholder and a willing to serve. And it's, you do your meeting, and they most of them have a where you have to maybe join one or two committees, and you have to look at the bylaws.
And I actually learned this recently that primarily because some council members do it much better than others, but apparently there's supposed to be liaisons that are representatives that not only show up to these neighborhood council meetings, but actually are supposed to solicit feedback and take it to the council members to actually do some sort of actionable work with it. Can you explain that to people, what that program is called and what that NLA, what that's called?
Yeah, well, what it is that they at all the public meetings with neighborhood councils, it's just the official rep area. So every um, because don't forget these people are elected too, so it's going to be maybe the council member's office's rep, the mayor's rep, LAPD, the senior lead officer, the fire department may send their reps. I've seen DOT may whoever any of them can send their reps, because they want to get a lot, or your senators, your congressmen, your assembly people. They send their reps because they want to get their information to the neighborhood council people to disseminate, if they have programs going on, and whatever they're, say if it's assemblymen, they want to know what laws that their person is doing. So they come to give information, but then they have to give public comment, or they take questions from the board to answer their questions, and then people, public comment, they get a chance to talk to them too, to give their feedback, their redress, ask questions. And that's a real good way to connect, because usually they will, because the reps for the people like the mayor and all, they want to build a good relationship with the community. So they may say, well, email me, here's my email, here's my card if it's in person, and try to build that connection. So that's how you can connect a lot. Like if, like, say with the East Hollywood, the blue, we're all interested in the blue building. You go there, you're gonna get, Hugo's reps there. You may get the mayor's reps. We had the fire department, different ones, and the only thing that they don't get is the senior lead officers, which is a shame. Like I keep telling them, they need to demand that those senior lead officers, because people want to hear from the police department. I don't care, how you feel about the police, but everyone wants to hear from them, because that, and so one thing I think they need to work harder at. But so you can connect, and then you take it to the next level, because now you have a connection. Okay, because you're not going to go into Hugo's office and go talk to Hugo, but you're going to be able to talk to his reps, and you get to build a relationship with them, and that's how you do it. Even in this other communities, not just here in LA, you get to work with their people and then work your way in.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times, those contacts, even they might not lead you directly to a conversation with the council member, but they will lead you to conversation with other agencies that can put you in touch with the people that have the authority to do certain things, like issue letters stating that some things have to be done, or give information that you otherwise would have been completely locked out of. And so those are the people that I'm nice to. Usually the
Yes.
council people, they can get the most heat because on average those guys in LA make like 260K a year. So whatever, like I don't care. Everybody else, I'm nice with them because a lot of times they also don't know, and what might be going on. They get the filtered down version, right? You get the filtered down version from the slows in LA, and it's not until somebody like an audit shows up and tells them what's what, and it's always funny to see. And I can only imagine some of the memes that we'll get from these other cities as more and more people do this stuff.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
gonna bring it to their towns. Well, even I was surprised because the other day I was, bringing something to Hugo's office, and I was talking to Shasha about the girls and that incident, and she says, "Well, she's going to give it to this one person because she's right now been assigned to deal with everything Scientology." So what that means to me is that Hugo's got the message. He's hearing there's stuff going on with Scientology. We need to. So he put a point person, one person. Because that wasn't the case like a couple months ago when I was dealing with them. So it does progress. So now he has one person working on it, and she was at the CPAB meeting that we were at. It's the same person.
Yeah.
So even, if she's safe point, I don't know who's safe pointed, who's not, but at the same time, she's being appointed, and they are talking and listening to everybody. So that's how you work it, because don't forget, like, for years, they only heard from Scientology. They're on all the CPABs. They get on every board, they get on everything, all the bids, all the, everything, and so they only been hearing from, how great they are, "Oh, we have this anti-graffiti, we have this we're in the prison, we're doing all this great stuff." So they're not being challenged. So even though we're upset that they're safe pointed and we hate these ones that are doing it, that's all they've heard, and so now they're being challenged. Like even the officers who are safe pointed of like, well, okay, well, now you're going to hear a different point of view because there's people who are willing to speak up against it. And you have to hear us now, whether it's Hugo's office, the LAPD, or whatever. So now they're getting a different perspective. Doesn't mean they're gonna, and that's why I try to say, like, that's why I want to unsafe their safe pointing, because at the end of the day, they are hearing it. They are now they can't, then they're showing total complicitness. If they continue to do what they were doing, thinking that they're so great after hearing and seeing all this other stuff and hearing from other people, then they're just complicit. But my hope is that they would slowly turn the tide to where they're like, okay, well, maybe we do need to look into this more. Yeah, what did happen to these girls? What is happening? Why is this way? Because they're being challenged to think now, where before they weren't.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, it's like it's basically just doing the safe pointing tactics, but in reverse for
Yes.
for good, right? It's
Hmm.
effective, for better or for worse, the propaganda they've got, it is effective. It is the way to enact change. It's stupid that they decided to use it for evil, but fundamentally, it's a recipe to show other people how if they have other causes they want to fight for, this is how you do it. Like you actually have to show up and you have to make your voice be heard. And like you said, you got to know your rights. You got to actually follow through afterwards with CPRAs. I'll tell you what, I did follow through with the city attorney data, and I have some breaking news for everybody here. So I followed through and I got an official response on how many times the city attorney specifically personally showed up for misdemeanor vandalism cases and the time that the city attorney's office takes from a crime report to an official indictment. And you know what they said? You know what the city attorney's office said?
I have a
They
guess. Never.
They literally said that they don't track the data for how long it takes for a crime report to a indictment, which I call BS on,
Hmm.
because in fact they do. And number two, they said literally she doesn't when it comes to showing up to personally handle. So I feel like I'm very special because I feel like I've made LA history as being the very first person to have Heidi show up and handle just a simple arraignment. Like, who else gets that special privilege
No
of
one.
having the LA city attorney show up?
And I told you that day. I'm like, look, because I know how this works. I'm like, there's no way she does this. I bet she's never done it. I bet that you were the first, because there's no way. I mean, ego. If this her job title alone, she's not going to stoop down to what is like the first level of getting in the door and being in her office. That's like there's no way. And the fact that she didn't even have a prosecutor assigned
Yep.
was I don't know if it's because, like, she just didn't do it, or because she wants to do it and, like, like, put the drive the screwdriver in, or if it's because nobody wants to deal with her shenanigans. Like, no one wants to, like, "Hey, we're not going to be disbarred and go to jail for you,"
Yeah.
whatever their case, but I knew
And
it.
Yeah, and other people are selling out Heidi, and this is exactly what's to come for other corrupt officials. You know, your staff can only take so much until they're under the radar too. And the first thing they're going to do is say, screw this. Either they quit outright or they say, I'm going to hand over the goods. I'm tired of this. Here you go. Here's everything about Heidi. And we got literally in the CPAB, and even a conversation I had afterwards, the LAPD Northeast lieutenant outright stated that the city attorney's office has specifically cases of indecent exposure. They're specifically intentionally letting them go by the wayside via statute of limitations and not prosecuting them. Literally, he said that. He said, we're
Wow.
doing our part. We've already sent it over. We make arrests and then they have to be let go afterwards for a temporary hold. There's nothing else that we can do. Like, we can't just keep them in jail. It's up to the city attorney's office, and they literally are not charging them. Then that's specific to anything of a sexually heinous crime. For some reason, the city attorney's office is like, I am not going to touch this. And that's a question that I think residents of LA should ask. It's like, why are you not protecting me from deviants? You know, you're letting these people literally off the hook. I want to know why.
Exactly. But they were also, I found out, even on the civil side, because there's a civil and criminal side to the city attorney's office, and with the citations that Scientology does have, I don't know if it's like 7 or 8 citations at this point for them to get rid of the planters, the thorny vegetation, all these different things, and that it was I did get it like some kind of email confirmation that it was submitted to the city attorney for them to take next steps because they have not corrected any of it. But where is that? Like I don't see anything. I don't see them doing anything on that either.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's just more stuff that comes up. And, especially in a place like LA, this one cause now is, I think, inextricably going to be linked to the Diddy federal case that's going on,
Oh yeah.
where people that otherwise, like, oh, well, that's a Diddy case. It's like, no, all these people are interrelated with Scientology. And oh, look, there's all this other work that people have already done to uncover corruption and collusion. Take that, you slap it onto a major grand conspiracy case, and this is like perfect timing, literally perfect timing.
It goes together, and I mean, I sometimes joke around, and I've said a couple times that LAPD, what's the problem? Can your detectives not find an egg under a hen? Because why did it take the feds to find all the stuff that's in your own backyard? So is it going to take the feds to figure out the Scientology part? It's took the feds to come for P Diddy and all the stuff that in Hollywood that's been ignored for years. There's been victims coming for years, isn't it funny though? Because we're dealing with Hollywood that it's the same divisions, it's
Mhm.
Hollywood division, it's Northeast
Same divisions.
same
Yep.
divisions, when you're dealing with the
Yeah.
you know, and so it's crazy.
Yeah. And it's the same tactics. It's so easy to see the suppression, intimidation, and harassment. And it's just what fascinates me most about LA though is that for all the millions of people there, absolute trash of journalists that are part of the LA Times don't do any of this work, and how easy it is for people like yourself to be basically the sole expert in that entire area. There's so much opportunity there where you are literally, in my eyes, the top ranking journalist in LA doing the work that entire armies at corporate journalist companies are not doing, despite
And I wonder
being,
why they're not doing it.
yeah, like everything from KTLA to the LA Times and everybody in between, CBS, Fox, even if they lean one way or another, it's
Doesn't
just
matter.
that they're not even asking questions. They're literally just leaving it by the wayside.
And there's
And
a reason for all that, But in April, I'm telling everyone this too. On April 4th of this past year, the New York Times did, I mean, the LA Times did come out with an article about how, Scientology fair gamed both the police and the prosecutors in the Danny Masterson case. It was a big article. Everyone should go, LA Times, April 4th, Scientology, Google that, it'll come up. And it's interesting because I'm saying, for the police, that's what I say that also at the police commission meeting sometimes. Like, these are people that fair gamed your own people, and now you're protecting them. Like, do you see the insanity of it? So there was one, and then I know that people have been putting pressure on him. His name's James Quealy. To do more, but from what I heard, rumor has it that he wants to do more of these articles, but he's getting the nicks from the editors above. So that's another thing we need to figure out. This is where, we've also all become the greatest, our chat, especially, right? We've all become detectives and investigators and
Absolutely.
figure out why, like, is it, is there a bunch of Scientologists up there and, in these lofty positions? I don't know. But little by little, it's all going to become exposed and we're going to get the whole picture and then we're going to change it. And, we're fixing it.
I personally look forward to the day where one of my objectives is to hopefully be able to name in legitimate crime reports the names of the OSA agents. And there's a lot
Yes.
of them out there for ideal oryx to missions to finally put their names on official reports and videotape that shit. And then hopefully one day be there to videotape those silver bracelets going on their wrists
Mhm. And the
for the
indictments and the
absolutely.
court cases, and right, it won't be, like, won't be the, I mean, well, I'm not saying that Danny Masterson's a lower, but I wanna see the top, all of them, for all the everything, that human trafficking, the children brides, the abuse, all of it. That there needs to be. I hope the FBI does come in, because also, I don't. Fat Grammy also did a thing where she got a letter to the DOJ from all the victims who wanted to participate, that came out of Scientology, to say, hey, you know what, the FBI, I went to the FBI and they ignored, they did not help us, they didn't
Mhm.
help protect us as children, and we have a complaint against that. So I'm hoping that goes somewhere else too, where they will start investigating and finding out why did the FBI fail all these victims. Like, there's a lot of accountability that's going to happen from local all the way up to federal, and we're all pushing these buttons. Eventually, it's being shaken at its core, and something's going to give somewhere. It has to.
And I don't know if Davey, our go-to flyer guy, is watching, but man, here's my proposition to any law firm that frankly wants to make an absolute boat slash trucks slash shipload of money, man. Print out those flyers, Davey. If you want to be an absolutely wealthy law firm, join this cause and hold these people accountable through suits because this is a literal gold mine waiting. So, Davey, if you're listening, bro, uh, make those flyers. All right, say something like do the Uncle Sam like pointing, and say something like, "If you're a lawyer and you want to be super wealthy and rich, join the Scientology movement, man."
I'm
You
telling you,
guys,
it's gonna go somewhere. Like, it starts small, but it's gonna get bigger and bigger. But I
yeah,
want some, I found out at the city council, I learned this from Goat Puppet. You're not allowed to bring in signs, anything larger than 8 by whatever size paper is, 8 by 11, 8 by 12. And so what he does is he puts it like a necklace. So if he wants to wear a sign, he has to put it with the right size. I mean, if it's bigger than the right size, and he
yeah,
wears it as a necklace, because I would like, I would start doing it, and that's another way you go, you can be kind of like figure out what the rules are and how to work with them. But yeah, the posters are they're the best.
golden, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Oh man. It's only a matter of time. I think for a lot of us, this very well might be our permanent retirement fund right here.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, it's funny because I became a paralegal before dealing with all this. I didn't do it for this, but I'm hoping that I can, as I get certified and stuff, use those skills, because I would love to work with attorneys that are willing to do it, and I'll help out with the legal paperwork and everything. I just, but I would have to work under an attorney, so I'm willing to put my time and effort out for that too if an attorney wants to do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to self promote for a job, but
No, seriously, counselors do watch. If you're out there, man, audit is the best paralegal that you could ever have. So fucking hurry up and hire her and just do it already, man.
With
You're
the constitutional law, give me the civil, the civil. I would love to go against the, like fighting for the Brown, because we didn't even really talk about the Brown Act, how much they violate the Brown Act, and if you're not in California, you're still you're still covered by the Bain Act. That's the federal one, and then it's division. Your area might have other laws, like it might be similar to Brown Act but called something else. So there's all the rules that they're held by. They hold us to the Brown Act, right? Don't they just love to throw us out of meetings if
right.
we, mess up with the Brown Act? But then they just blatantly disregard it, and the city attorney just sits there, and does nothing about it. Never puts them in check. So that's why we had to put them in check and expose it, and tell them to knock it off,
Yeah,
and then
and
sue them, whatever, cure and correct, like you did that cure and correct, and got things resolved. So that's what you have to do.
yeah, absolutely. And I think, the people that do, like Will was talking about this, the people that do sort of like 1A auditing, I find them primarily a big, more of a pain in the butt than actually helpful because when you show up to something like a post office, it's random, but if you show up something to like a city council meeting and you see somebody get booted out unlawfully, that is pure content gold, and specifically, people want to see that. That's the accountability people want to see, and it makes for much better content. It
Well,
truly
me
does.
too. Oh, sorry, because I don't like to torture like regular. I like, even at City Hall. Like, I know sometimes my videos are probably really boring visually, because even though I know I have the right to film in public, like I know, like sometimes, like the mayor, the lady in the mayor's office, she's not comfortable with it. So I try to work with them. I'm not gonna just, I don't want to just throw a camera for. Well, I have the right to do this. I'm an auditor. Or what, It's like, no. So I don't want to bring stress and frustration to just the regular people. Yeah, they need to learn that, okay, you don't you have zero expectation of privacy in public. So it's good for them to know that. But I don't need to, I don't want to sit there and push those buttons with them. I just want the government to be held accountable. I want the police to be accountable, and the city council. And you're right, it is, people do want to watch it. I've been watching it for years, but let's keep it about them. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, the pointing of the camera, it's really just to take a receipt and record that you did, in fact, show up and you submitted said paperwork and you
Mhm.
got acknowledgement of it. You don't have to shove it in the camera in their face and, tell them that you're a 1A auditor or this other stuff. You don't have to do that. As long as you got the record that you showed up and you submitted the request and you filed the appropriate paperwork, then that's all that's required. And then you can follow up with that on a court of law. But yeah, I don't agree with the other tactic. It's just dumb. Like people get annoyed at you and you lose people that way.
Yeah,
So
and respect. Like, just sometimes it's just as simple, have respect for each other, even if, you have the right, doesn't mean I have to do it. It just. But I agree. It's watch. And now I did get. I mean, Detective Rand. Now with him, I got mad because he threatened to arrest me if I didn't stop filming. So I'm like, that's a complaint, buddy. You know what I mean, right there, because I can film. I'm not pointing at any victims. I'm not listening to on anything. I'm extremely mindful with any of that. But the fact that you're telling me, I did leave because I'm under threat of arrest. I wasn't going to sit there and be arrested, but they do need to learn, like, that you have the right to film. Period.
yeah, in
I mean,
cases
within the public part.
Yeah, yeah. In cases like Rand, those are the perfect times to do that, right? Where you basically give them the finger and show the camera right at their face, because those people are bullies. They're just
Hmm.
bullies, and you got to make a stand. But yeah, for a lot of the other folks, like the clerks and whatnot, especially when you see that they're trying to be helpful to you, those are cases that you don't have to do the whole shove the camera in their face thing, but yeah, people like Rand, they just gotta learn that, they're a servant. Like that's their job.
Hmm. I agree. And I
Yeah.
don't know. I want to. A lot of chat has gone by, and I couldn't read it, but I want to acknowledge. Can we acknowledge chat? And I always thank chat all the time because I always appreciate them so much, and their support and stuff. Like, they're the they're they're the encouragement and stuff to keep going. So I missed a lot of stuff, but I thank you guys for the support you guys bring.
Yeah, and for those that haven't, I pinned a message on the chat. If you haven't already, go like, subscribe, and support Audit LA. Her channel is pinned right on the messages there. Just click it and you can check out all her different posts. She has the what I call the comedy skit, soon to be a movie for Janet from Another Planet and Jenna and her men. I can't wait to see that shit as a fucking Netflix special. I'm already calling it. It's gonna be absolutely beautiful. So check out Audit LA, go show some love. And yeah,
Mm,
shout out to the chat because the chat is a fucking beast. Like all this
yeah.
little information that it would have taken years to learn. You just look at the chat and they give you it's like chat GPT but real time.
Yeah, and they're the best. But I did see someone saying, were we giving a dig to, Scotty and William about putting things in people's No, we're not. We're talking about the auditors that they go to the post office, say, and like people coming in the post office is doing their daily business,
Yeah.
and they're saying, can you just please don't film me? And they just go in their face anyway. You know, that's what they were talking about, just random people. It's a whole big thing. If you look up the 1A auditors, is this a million of them? It's nothing what Scott and William do. It's so different. Like they're doing accountability. That's what we're talking about. What we want is accountability. Yes, you can put the camera in people's face, for accountable. They need to be held accountable. Like what Will with the city attorney that one day, like they need to be held accountable. And how are you going to see it if you don't, put the camera at it? You have to see what they're doing and what they're doing wrong. That's how you catch them in their shenanigans. So no, what we're talking about is a very different A1 auditing.
Yeah, no, like you said, those are the folks that just show up to post offices and they'll just linger about and point the camera, which you technically lawfully can do, but what people like Audit do is completely different. It's you're holding bad actors accountable. You're also there for a very specific reason. You're there to get information and exercise rights specifically for the purpose of accountability, whether it be getting information like payroll to out whether there's any underlying contracts or bids that interfere with conflicts of interest. That's the type of stuff that's legit. That's accountability. That's what people like Audit and will do. And the rest of the folks just show up at libraries, at post offices, and they'll just sort of aimlessly point their camera and walk around. And it's entertaining for like the first minute, and then after that, it just gets really boring really quickly.
They start
Um,
feeling bad for the people because they're like, I'm just here to read a book. Why
yeah,
am I? Yeah,
yeah,
I get it.
absolutely. Yeah. Did you have I didn't wanna, let the stream go on for hours and make it like a 9-hour stream. I wanna try to keep it, simple and to the point. But do you have any other topics that you wanted to let people know about? Some of the ways that, like, local LA, government is organized? Any other information you wanna shout people out to?
Well, we did talk a lot about, like there's the city councils and the neighborhood councils under them, and then we have different agencies like Public Works, which oversees Department of Sanitation, the street lighting, the street services, forestry, just different things. We have the mayor's office. We have different, it's and so they're separate, but at the same time, they all kind of work together. And so it's just interesting. We're still trying to like in LA is just a very confusing government. I was always involved more with the police stuff, and neighborhood council, city council. So now I'm branching out and learning about the rest of it. Like, what do we do? And I know Thursday we have a meeting coming up with the Department of Transportation, LADOT, I believe it is. And so we're starting to see just different things that are out there and still trying to figure it out. But so it all and also LA is very discombobulated. No one knows what the other one's doing. No one knows who's it seems like, okay, we're in charge of this, but then you go, well, okay, well, what about this? Well, it's so well, should be here, but no, it's over there. It's very confusing city. And so I think it's because it's so big, it's so rampant, but that's still trying to we're still trying to sort out a lot of these things and build the pieces and so we can get a better picture. And they just have a lot of empty spaces too. Like there's no disability person that we can find because they're supposed to have a rep for disability advocates. They don't have that. There's just a lot of the head of public, not the commissioners of public works, but the head of the public works department, which
Mhm.
seems confusing. Okay, we have the commissions and we have public works department. they don't have a head. Like there's no one at the head right now, and so it's just a mess. The whole thing is a mess. It needs to be sorted out and it needs to be fixed. And I'm hoping that with the civil grand juries, maybe we could do more of them. Maybe we could do like put in for like 5 or 10 next year, and maybe we get a lot more fixed. So but other than that, I just want to encourage everyone, keep it short. I know we said like an hour, we're already 5 minutes past that, but I just want to encourage everyone to get involved. Whether it's, you could get involved, whether you go to your own local meetings, find your own voice, but also, we get a lot of support from people sending the information. I mean, like you guys are the best detectives, literally. Chat should be its own detective agency. And I just want to encourage you guys and just find your voice, find who you are in this situation, find out like I have a friend who's like, I need to figure out who I am, what I'm supposed to do, and just figure that out. You'll figure it out. And then it all works together. Like, don't think that one is more important. It's not. It all works together because it's really like it's not that we're like like organized anything. No, it's just a bunch of people crowdsourcing, and we're all looking at what each other's doing. It's like, oh, that gives me an idea. Well, I can look into this, or I can. People say, well, can I want to start mailing the senators and the congressmen. I'm like, go do it, and just all these different things. So whatever you want to do, just do it. Just get involved.
Yeah, the only way to learn is through the experience of actually doing it. A lot of people are trying to find some sort of substitution for it, but if you want to offer a public comment, the best way is you just show up and do it. And I think what's unique about LA City is their meetings are virtual, and people are learning what it means to offer comment virtually, and how if they want to keep their identity anonymous, you can do that too. And I've seen a lot of people do that. And then, of course, with LA, one of the other sort of discombobulated things is there's the county and then there's the city, and you can look over at some place like Hermosa, and it's a completely different outlook on the different agencies that oversee different things, even though they're like, I don't know, 30-minute drive from one another. And to me,
Yeah,
it's the same thing. And on a map, it shows LA, but it's a county, and they have a totally different council. They have totally different bureaus of the police department, even though they're sort of all LAPD generally. And then we haven't even touched on the sheriff's department involved in all this, right? Because sheriffs are also law enforcement as well. We've
mhm,
primarily been dealing with the LAPD, but the sheriffs are another avenue that hasn't really been explored much. And even in Watch the Watchers, it's primarily been focused on LAPD. There's obviously the two work together, right? The sheriffs and the police work together to do things like spying. And so to me, there's no real difference other than just some of the jurisdiction that they have. But you know, that's another avenue that people can tap into for information through CPRA records, and there's just so much opportunity.
I
Whether you
can.
want to, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
But
go ahead.
to explain the sheriffs, what it is, it's like, okay, LAPD is for LA, the city of LA, and the city of LA, mind you, is 400 square miles. It's enormous. But the LA County is even bigger, and that's the county level. So and there's a bunch of different towns within the county. So they make like Burbank, different places. They have their own police department. So Burbank is right next to LA, but Burbank has its own police department, but they're both LA County. Now, the sheriff, they police the areas that are either unincorporated county areas, and or they contract like a WeHo contracts out to the sheriffs. They don't have their own police department, and also they do the jails, anything correction related. So your LAPD, yeah, you're going to meet the sheriffs if you're ever put in jail or through the court at the courts. They deal with that there, but that's the difference between those two.
Yeah, and talk about the jails. We've had Scientologists that have assaulted protesters, right? And have basically gotten out of jail within less than a day. And that's another avenue for information to explore. Why are the sheriffs not holding these people that are blatantly? Another one was in the courts, right, where sheriffs, deputies were present, and a Jane Doe got assaulted.
Yes.
That was part of Scientology case. Why are the sheriffs not arresting a man committing assault in a court of all places? that's another avenue for chat and anybody else to get
Yes.
involved and see, what is going on in the sheriffs. We've got the LAPD aspect covered, and it's going to be the same model for every other city in
Because they
Boston.
turn you over to the sheriff when you're in jail. So how are the people? We've heard about how some of our people were treated in the jail. That's
Yep,
the sheriffs. That's no longer LAPD.
yep, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, and this is the kind of stuff that I think is critical to any sort of movement because regardless of what you're advocating for, you're going to get involved with these two forces, right? It's going to happen at some point. Um,
absolutely. And that's, it's good. And they all have their own different reputations here. There's different stuff you could talk about. And, once you get to know, you see that like when you're here and you're starting to know who's what and what's going on, they're very different, but there's a lot that's very much the same.
yep, yep, absolutely. Anything else that's on your mind, Audit?
No, I'm just curious, like how we got a new chief, we have a new DA. I think I'm just curious to see how things progress in the next level. We're getting kind of we lost De Leon, so we have a couple. Well, we have two new council people coming because Krikorian termed out. So we have Adrian Nazarian, who used to be our assembly person. He's coming in, and so we have a lot of changes just in the structure of things. So I'm just curious, it's like to be continued, see what's next.
Yeah, and a new DA as well, which is going to
Mhm.
be interesting. That's
And he's very different from what I hear, like a very different philosophy from the one we currently have. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays. And then the new chief, love him or hate him or indifferent, it's it is what it is, and we see where that goes. But I'm glad I already have a little bit of an inroad with him, and I'm hoping to keep that going at being able to talk his ear off at the police commission meetings because we already met just getting coffee. It was like one of those divine appointments or whatever. Just bumped into him and I work with everyone. I'm not going to sit there and be antagonistic or anything. I want to work. I want him to hear us and work with us. So um, I look forward to seeing what he has to say. But even
and
the Choi, interim chief Choi was really, he set me up with the detective to take my concerns about the girls. So, sometimes it's just doing that too. And if you feel like the local police level's not talking or hearing you or listening, go to the police commission meetings and just, because once you go there and say, I have a complaint against an officer, they send the OIG or somebody right there to meet with you to talk to you, like they did with Matt, and myself on
yep.
Tuesday.
Yeah, and shout out to Matt for doing that too, for
Yes.
stepping up and having the courage not only to speak up, but to stand your ground and continue the recording of that entire encounter. That's the kind of thing that I love to see people growing into because the biggest meme of all for me at the very beginning of this, and you probably saw it too in chat, they always were saying call streets. That was literally the meme of this movement. Call streets. Oh my God, somebody get Will, somebody tell him. And it's like, what do you think Will is going to do? Hit a magic button and somehow immediately unarrest people? Like he doesn't have that kind of pull. They're gonna do what they're gonna do, and to this day, I still can't forget that because it's like call streets. No, how about you call Matt or call somebody else to take up the mantle and do the work because that's the whole point. You show people how to do it and you encourage them to do it so that there's no one person, right? That's the whole goal.
He'll be
Let
working 24/7, and he showed us how to do it because Streets is the one that he's been, talking about holding accountable and stuff, and so we all learned a lot, from him. But yeah, he can't be everywhere at once. He has to live his life and go to sleep too. The poor
yeah,
guy. I send him out looking for agendas on the council's walls. He would go, and I'm like, I'm so grateful, but it's true. We rely so much on him, and but now we're all learning, we're all growing in it, and we all can to do it together.
Yeah, and for any ideas, like here's a great one for another call to action for people. Two actually. One, if you want to talk about CPRAs, go CPRA the serial number of the new chief and the payroll information for him. You want something to do. Another one is those stupid motions in city council to just visually have a nicer way to look at them to see how many are up for public hearing, how many have already been heard for public comment. and which ones are being pushed over till next meeting. That's the type of stuff that somebody can do. And I was actually looking to do that in the sort of lull I have for another project I got coming up shortly. But that's the type of stuff that people can get involved with, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
if you like like the digital or just information, and that stuff's really important. But the new chief, I found he got a little bit of a pay cut. He was supposed to get like 500 something thousand. He's going to get, I believe, 480, 480,000, I think, around that. And then plus he has his retirement, his pension, I think is like around 250 ish. So he's going to be making a lot of money. So hope he does a good job with it, and it is what it is.
yeah, we'll be watching, right?
Yes, yeah, for that kind of money, we want our money's worth. We definitely
Absolutely.
want our money's worth.
Absolutely.
If he helps us take down Scientology, it'll be worth every penny. That's how I look at it. If he actually helps deals with these things that, the human trafficking and all this stuff, the children in Scientology, and actually does something about it, then I'll be like, it was worth every penny. Because if he actually listens and, and looks into it, we'll see. And oh, one last thing, Tandra brought up about the Christmas parade is coming. So on the 1st of December, the Christmas parade's coming, and it turns out that Scientology, their museum, whatever it is, they are the official green room for the entire parade. So everyone they do all the photography, they get do all the people coming and going or whatever. So they have a very active role, not just the float and not just donating money, but so it's a little bit late to unplug that for this year. So but we can all be there or whatever. Do education, maybe fly. That's where posters would come in handy. But next year we may have to start early, maybe in January, and start looking into that more and seeing how that happened and maybe make it stop. Just a
Yeah, and
thought.
hand off some flyers to the neighborhood councils, man. Give them some boxes to take
Yes.
home and spread around. Share the love, man.
Yep. Yeah, the flyers, yeah, I know. And someone
Absolutely.
mentioned like it's Scotty's van to like have it like get a float, and let the van be pulled down the float. I'm like, yeah, we have to work on that. I don't know if we can still do it for, for this year, probably not. But this is the stuff we could do. This unplugging them from their whatever, because nobody knows. They think that, oh, they're so great. No, they're human trafficking. They have children marrying, adults. They force their workers to have abortions. They're human trafficking. They're slave laboring. There's so many just horrible things that totally counteract their anti-graffiti movement or whatever it is that they do. What they claim their claim to fame is.
Yeah. And a lot of it has primarily been through intimidation, right? To not get people to do the work that we're doing. Filing crime reports, filing complaints, filing all sorts of evidence that otherwise just would have not been entered into the record. That's the beauty
Hmm.
of all this. And it's to show people how to do it so they can replicate it in their area. And I think one of the best examples of this, when I was walking with Crazy Love is Love to the Salt Lake City police, right? One of the things that people got to find out is that that clerk's office literally only has the desk open 12 to 4. That's a great, if people want some content, go and protest the SLCPD and say, why are you only open from 12 to 4? What if I have an emergency? I need to get a hold of somebody and file reports. And you saw on a previous live where they were refusing to take complaints from her and refusing to take a crime report from her until I showed up. Then they had a different tune, and now she knows what that looks like. And basically, those people now know not to fuck with somebody like Crazy Love as well because they know that she knows her shit, and other people know their shit, and you just keep repeating that.
Yep.
That's that's
Once
the
you know
rest.
the law and you know your rights, those two things, you're good to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, this is fun, man. I hope people got
Yeah.
a lot of information out of it. And as always, Audit, I've learned a lot about LA politics way faster than I did when I was just sitting back and, trying to take it all in for myself. But I appreciate having somebody like you out there and having somebody like Puppet Guy, even as weird as they are, it's just it's great to have a resource and not be completely alone in it. So I appreciate
Yeah.
all your wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you. We had fun, when you were here, we're doing it. And go put people. He's a lawyer. He's actually really brilliant and stuff. And there's a reason for the political theater. I know everyone doesn't get it. It's just very LA. You know, different
Yeah,
vibe
yeah.
here.
LA is fucking weird, man. That's I always knew it was weird, but you got to experience it like physically to understand it. It's fucking weird. It's really fucking weird.
It is. I can't
Yeah.
lie.
Well,
But
check out
thank
all.
you, and I want to thank you to have me on.
Absolutely, yeah. Everybody check out LA's channel. I've got it pinned to the messages there. Go subscribe. Go check out all her community posts because she's an absolute gem. And who knows? Maybe Audit will run all 99 neighborhood councils. Could happen.
I'll teach them how to do it. I'll just encourage them to do it. That's all. I want to be I'll be the cheerleader. I was like,
Be
but
the be
thank
the
you, Henry.
Karen.
I really and I finally said it. See, it took me forever because I don't know why I keep turning your name to Henri like you're French. I think I'm finally getting it.
You gotta do what Will does in all of his social media. I think he calls himself like the Karen of the LAPD complaint filer. You're gonna be the Karen for all the city government complaint filing. So
Yeah. Well, somebody dubbed me. They said, "Oh, you're the people's Karen." So I said, "I like that." So I put that on my thing, the people's Karen. I'll take it. I'll accept it. Take me to no, it said, take me to your manager. Take me to your mayor.
absolutely. Oh man, well, I appreciate it. Thanks for everybody that be supporting in the chat. Check out
Yes,
Audit
thank you guys.
Channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out, guys.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.